Hello and welcome to STRT Over Coffee. My name is Shaquila Smith and I lead the community and marketing here at START. STRT Over Coffee is all about having conversations with creators in the Salt Lake City area. And for this episode, we'll be interviewing a foodie entrepreneur, Maria Lara, who is the founder of Amano Pasta. And Amano Pasta is a local homemade pasta company with a mission to create memorable experiences around the family dinner table while enjoying fresh pasta. And in this episode, we'll be discussing the essentials for starting a small business in the food industry. So hi, Maria, how are you? I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today and talk about Amano Pasta.
Thank you, Shay. I'm so excited to be here. I've known about START for a while, so I'm honored to be part of this podcast.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It's funny. Some people know we have a podcast, some people don't. So it's an interesting new thing that we do. And I love talking on this podcast because I love hearing a little bit more about every entrepreneur story in our community, because it's funny. I feel like I know you, but sometimes I know more about you from asking these questions. So yeah, I learn during this podcast as well. So it's awesome. So how about you start kind of just telling everybody listening a little bit about yourself and what you're currently working on?
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Maria and the last name is Lara. I have to say it that way because a lot of people think that my first name is Lara, but no, it's the last name. So I'm originally from Ecuador. I moved here when I was 17. I'm 35, recently turned 35. And so half of my life I've been in Utah, half of my life in Ecuador. And I go here, I travel back and half of my family is there, half of my family is here. So definitely Utah is home. And let's see a little bit about me. So so I graduated from the U. I went to the U. I did my undergrad, my master's degree. And the plan was to finish my master's degree last May and move up, have a better career ladder, open up more opportunities with a master's degree. And then the pandemic hit. And so I was a little stuck. And it's funny because my whole life I've been working and going to school full time. And there was a period between my undergrad and my master's degree that I was just working full time. And but I was running a nonprofit. So my interest is in between the kind of like the fine line between the nonprofit and the profit world, because a lot of nonprofits actually get funded by companies, right? For profit businesses. So I had to, in my focus in my master's degree was I did an MPA, a Master's in Public Administration, with a focus on nonprofit and / for-profit. So that's how I met Shay. Actually, we took a class together, an entrepreneurship class, and I think that class was kind of like my eye-opening. Like I had never taken a business class or anything like that, and not because I didn't want to, but because of the funding, right? They are definitely more expensive, but also because the availability. So if you're somebody I put myself through college, right, and I had to have a job with benefits the whole time. I can't just leave work at 10 a.m. to go take an accounting class that is in the middle of the day. So that is one of the reasons why I didn't do business. And also because I was more interested in the nonprofit world. But there was that one class that was, a good fit with my schedule and everything. And it opened my eyes to really understand what is the kind of like the soul behind a business and how decisions are made based on numbers. And it was a difficult class. I mean, you probably remember that.
It was hard. It was really hard.
Yes. And coming from somebody who doesn't have any accounting, finance background, it was really difficult, but we passed the class. I understood a lot. And that was kind of like my inspiration. I was like, okay, I think I know how the steps go into developing a business. And so, sorry, I'm gonna keep talking.
No, this is good. Keep talking. I want
Yeah,
to hear like the whole thing.
yeah, definitely. So basically, the pandemic hit. I was just having a full-time job, and I had more time in my hands, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's now or never. And it took me a few months to figure out what kind of product I wanted to sell, what kind of business I wanted to create. And I thought about going into furniture. We had sort of an investor lined up for that, and I didn't really connect with the product. And on top of that, I had to report to somebody, right? Because the investor wanted to know what was going on, and they wanted to have their opinion. And I was like,
Right.
I want something I want to create something by myself that I can make the calls, I can have the last say on everything. And I do love cooking. And during the pandemic, I'm making a lot of pasta. And that's how it started. One day in July last year, I woke up and I was like, it's pasta. And I did a lot of research, like market research, as far as like fresh pasta versus dry pasta. What's the difference? What is available in Utah? What do people like? What are the different recipes? And so I tested a bunch of different recipes and developed my own, what I thought people would like. And it went from there. I'm such a nerd. I
No,
remember, I
I
remember,
feel like every entrepreneur who starts a business thinks they're a nerd. Like, no,
really.
that's good. You did your research.
Yeah, I remember recruiting my friends and being like, I'm starting a business. These are some samples. Here's a survey. Can you please answer the questions? And I was hopeful to sell maybe 10 pounds a month. And so that's how it all started. And it's going really well. And it's been such a venue for me to such a creative venue, I would say.
Yeah.
Not only to create different recipes and different types of pasta, but also to explore connections and relationships with people in the community that I did not think about before getting into the business. I was like, I'm just going to sell pasta. And it
Yeah.
has turned into this beautiful community of supporters, and it's been great.
That's so cool. I know when I first spoke to you about your pasta business, you're like, I don't even know how to handle all of this because it grew so fast. What do you
Mhm.
think helps you grow so fast? Or, was it word of mouth? Was it like marketing on social media? Like, what did you find most successful in growing so fast?
I think I have a pretty good eye for marketing, and most of the work that I do is marketing related.
Yeah.
So I think that really helped. Um, but you go into a business not knowing how things are going to go, right? So again, my expectation was selling this much just between friends and family. And as soon as I opened the Instagram account, it blew up. And so I also, through that process, I discovered there's a lot of people who really like to support local businesses. And so
Yeah.
I tapped into that with the marketing, and I think that's what it happened. Also, the fact that there were not, at the time, there were not a lot of businesses that were offering fresh pasta.
Right.
So if you know about pasta, it's like night and day between dry pasta and fresh pasta. So definitely makes a difference. And those people who, I have a lot of customers from the East Coast, and they were like, oh my gosh,
Interesting.
I've been living here for so long and I couldn't find fresh pasta. I'm so glad I found you. And so tapping into those things, and really sharing a story, like I'm really passionate about it, is a good product, is good quality. I'm picky with the type of products that I use. So yeah, I think people just like the product, like the marketing, and that's kind of my niche. People
Yeah.
who um, are willing to support local businesses and who are passionate about pasta.
Interesting. I think that's really cool. I find that Salt Lake is really good at supporting local businesses. Like
Mhm.
that seems like a really big thing here, especially downtown Salt Lake. which is really cool. So kind of what's your learning curve when starting this pasta business? It was your first entrepreneurial venture and it ended up being really successful. Like it's still growing. I think that's so awesome. But what has been like the biggest learning curve?
You know, I would say I actually made a list of things that I was like, it's been a lot.
Yeah.
So first of all, I would say the kind of, in the food business, you have a lot of regulations. So I would say during my first 2 months was figuring out all of that. So the health permit, setting up appointments with food inspectors.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought I was going to sell my product from home. Turns out that because it's fresh pasta, you have to sell it from a commercial kitchen. And so finding a commercial kitchen, so all those permits that I didn't think they were going to be as tedious and time consuming, and talking to different people, like I remember the first department, I can't remember exactly which department, Department of Agriculture or Health, when I called them, they were like, oh yeah, you can work from home, that's totally fine. So I registered the business at my house in Mill Creek. And then a week later, somebody was like, no, you actually have to register at a commercial kitchen. So, and the tax, so dealing with all of that, right? Like the tax brackets are different between Mill Creek and Salt Lake County. So the first month I was charging the wrong tax. And so,
No.
yeah. And nobody tells you about these things,
Yeah.
right? You just want to open a business and you just start from scratch, and you trust what the people are telling you on the phone, right? When you call the Department of Agriculture or the tax commission, and sometimes they don't have the right answer, and so you have to keep calling and talking to different people and getting different perspectives and different answers. So and along with the tax, I didn't know that when you buy a product and from the market, and you make food with that, you're not supposed to pay tax, because the customers who buy your product will end up paying the tax. So again, for the first 2 months, I was paying double tax on everything, right? Nobody told me about these little things. So there was a nonprofit who purchased it's not a nonprofit, they were reselling the product. They purchased my pasta and I sent them an invoice and they were like, can you adjust the tax? And I was like, what do you mean adjust the tax? What does that mean? And so I did my digging, I called the tax commission and they were like, you only have a sales tax number. Do you have a restaurant tax ID? And I'm like, I don't know. And then they were like, do you have a withholding tax ID? And I'm like, what is this? Nobody told me about any of this. And so they ended up creating the numbers. Fast forward 4 months, whatever, 5 months later, I just did my taxes for the business. You have to report every 3 months. My accountant was like, oh, why do you have a withholding number? I'm like, I don't know. They created it for me. And she was like, you don't need a withholding account unless you have a payroll and you're paying somebody. And so, yeah, all those little things that you learn a lot within the first year. And I don't think, I don't know at least of any place where they can tell you all these little things. It's not until you do it that you learn.
Interesting. So do you find that it's harder with the coronavirus because you can't go see people in person and get expertise in person? Like you have to make all these calls, everything's online. Do you think that's more confusing? Is there a place, I guess my question too is like, is there a place in the Salt Lake City area where you could go and like find out all this information? And specifically in the food department?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm guessing maybe like there's this place as an incubator that I've heard they really help, but I feel like they might help you just like business of refugees.
Oh,
But I didn't reach out to them, you know. And
yeah.
I would say I would maybe recommend, I don't know what will be best, if you should do the research beforehand and get into a business knowing all of this, or like doing it as you go, as I did it. I don't know which one is better. Yeah, I guess you won't be able to know everything until it happens. But yeah, it's definitely not a dull day.
Yeah, I think it's tough too, because especially with any industry, I think you don't want to do too much research and then start, because then you're going to learn like throughout the process of creating a
Mhm.
business anyway. So it's like, yeah, you could do so much research and then you really just have to learn by doing it. And I think that's kind of
Mhm.
what you did, is like some things you're just going to miss or oversee or not even think about because you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And that's a really interesting, it's interesting hearing foodie entrepreneurs tell like these little things that I had no idea about.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't know. And now that I'm in the food industry, I definitely
Yeah.
have even more appreciation of the local businesses, the local food businesses,
Yeah.
because and it totally makes sense how so many of them have gone out of business now that, you know, through the pandemic. Um, it's it's tough. It's definitely tough. And especially the creative side, I would say, you definitely, my respect to all the chefs out there. It is
Yeah.
hard work. And just trying to come up with new recipes and new ideas, and you know, the seasons change and different holidays come up. So besides selling pasta, the my business has developed into kind of like three different areas. So one of them is the fresh pasta. The other one is teaching classes,
Cool.
and so there are a few holidays coming up, and so you know, trying to come up with a recipe and
Yeah.
create the process and send that out, it takes time and is hard work on top of actually making the pasta. And then the last one that has been very fun for me to do is to collaborate with other small businesses and do foodie bundles. So you have your pasta, the sauce, the bread, and like a pastry or a dessert. And I've been lucky to know a lot of other women entrepreneurs, and I've been able to collaborate with them and created these bundles that a lot of people may not have the time to go pick up the bread in Murray, to go pick up the pastry in, you know, I don't know, Glendale, and and just create this bundle. So I think I'm providing convenience and also supporting small businesses. Yeah, so it's been so far so good.
I love that. What has like been the biggest challenge? I know you hit up on like the taxes and learning all the accounting stuff and being a legit business, but
Mhm.
what has been the biggest challenge? I know you're the only one, right? Working
Yeah.
on all this pasta, which is
Yes.
crazy.
Yes.
So you're a chef. You're officially a chef.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But what has been like the biggest challenge, you would say?
Um, is, so one of the biggest challenges that I had when I just begun, like the first 3 months, was the kitchen. So working from a commercial kitchen where you have to share everything, and it's a little expensive for a business that I think it makes sense for a business where you go in there for an hour and then you cook everything that you need to cook for the week. Pasta is a lengthy process. Like just to make the dough, it takes an hour, and then another hour or so to cut the pasta. And then how I'm kind of like differentiating myself from other fresh pasta businesses is that the packaging is really beautiful, the brand is really nice, and that takes time, right? So it's not a product where I can rent a commercial kitchen and in an hour make all the pasta, and it's fresh, so every day that you buy it, I made it that day, right? And so I was able to make a deal with the Leonardo, is the museum downtown, and they have a commercial kitchen. And because it's a big event, is a big venue, they used to do weddings and different events, galas, and so they would use their commercial kitchen for that. But because of COVID, they are not using the kitchen, and so I was able to come in and use the kitchen all by myself, and that has been fantastic. To be able to just have my own space, go in at any hour and stay however long I want to stay, and to be able to test different recipes without having to worry that, oh my gosh, I'm paying per hour here,
Yeah.
right? And so that's huge. That has been a huge help.
Awesome.
The second challenge, I would say, finances, right? So not having any background behind it. At least I understand after that one class, I understand what a P&L is, what a balance sheet is, why is that important, what numbers to look at and what lines, right? But like actually doing it, I don't have the capacity. I could maybe be able to do it, but I just don't have the time or the capacity, right? I have to be, I'm busy making the pasta and also growing the business through marketing, which is my strength. And so thank goodness I hired an accountant. And so I'm working through those hiccups and like little things that I don't know about. And it's been interesting because I didn't know what my normal was going to be, like what, 50 pounds a month or 100 pounds a month. And I think it's hard to measure that during the first few months of the business. So for the first 4 months, I was not taking care of my finances. I was just like looking at my business checking account and being like, well, I started the business account with this much money.
Right.
If it goes up, that means I'm making money, right? If it goes down, I'm losing money. And so kind of like there is a time now, I feel like I'm at a point where I need to know exactly what is coming in, what is coming out, how much money I'm spending. So those two, I think, are the biggest challenges in moving forward, scaling. So even though everything is made by hand and the name of the company is Amano Pasta, which means by hand, I do need to buy a machine to speed things up and to be able to be able to make more pasta and meet the demand, because the demand is there. And with food, if it's not one person who's eating pasta one day, it's going to be another person. And so, scaling is definitely the next challenge that I foresee happening.
Yeah, and I imagine it's hard to see kind of how that will go down, especially with you only creating the pasta. And I think it's going to be a huge relief once you have that machine and being able to invest in something like that, even if it's an expense, you're still investing into it. So then you're able to make more pasta in a shorter amount of time, and it's going to help with your production. And then you'll have a work-life balance, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. Definitely there is, like right now I'm speaking with a couple of people in Park City who own shops and they're interested in providing the pasta. And so to be able to, meet those requests, I definitely need a machine. But we'll see how it goes. I applied for a grant, so hopefully I'll get that.
Yeah, that'll be good. I think that's just huge that you're going out in the community and finding people who support local businesses, that are local businesses who are wanting to partner up. I think that's a huge thing because you have to rise together. And it's so important to do that, I think. I love that. And Leonardo is amazing. So I'm so happy they did that for you. It doesn't surprise me that they did that for you because they're just so great. But I kind of have a question a little bit on your vision for the company. Do you want your own kitchen and restaurant? Like what do you imagine for it?
I have thought about doing a restaurant, I would definitely need a partner for that because I am not a chef. And like I said, the creative side, I do love it, but if I wouldn't be able to do anything else. And so maybe that is down the road. I would need investors and, hire a ton of people. Maybe it is a possibility. Right now, for the next year or so, I think the plan is to get a machine, hire one or two people, and really expand to provide fresh pasta to local businesses, either other restaurants or I was working with the Cottonwood Country Club, and make it more accessible for people, right? So right now I'm just serving mainly Salt Lake City, but I would love to serve, Davis County, Utah County. So finding spots where I can provide the pasta, I think it will be a success for me within the next year.
Yeah.
And then moving on from that, like the following year, probably just establishing processes, and who knows, maybe I start providing pasta to other like groceries and out of state. I think that will be really fun to do. And once that is established, then I can think about creating a restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I also, I'm curious, are you thinking about doing catering at some point too?
I don't think I would be able to
Yeah.
do that right now with the capacity that I have. I sort of did catering this December, and that was too much work. Yeah. And it's just too many things happening at the same time. And I feel like I would like to focus on a few things and not too many at the time, so I am able to have a quality product and quality experience. Yeah, so right now I'm just offering pasta in sauces that I make personally. And if people want, bread or a dessert, I have some contacts that I can provide that. Yeah, so, but no catering at the moment. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess the idea behind how I started the business, like my purpose was that I enjoyed making pasta so much. And it reminded me to growing up in Ecuador, how our families would come together and start making bread, right? Like I didn't make the dough, but my mom would bring me a piece of dough and we would play around with the dough, between the kids. And then my aunts would put the bread in the oven. So it was such a family
Yeah.
gathering and experience. And I haven't experienced that so much here in Utah. And when I started making pasta, I was like, this is such a great opportunity to bring families together and do an activity and learn. And you feel so proud once you finish the product and you taste it and it's like amazing. So that was the idea behind the brand and behind the product. And so I provide the pasta and people still have to cook it at home. So there is a little bit of that experience there. And then if they want to learn how to make pasta, they can take a class. And so that is kind of like the soul of the business, I would say.
I love that. I love that. What is some advice that you would give some entrepreneurs that are listening right now to kind of, I guess, beauty entrepreneurs specifically, possibly, if they're wanting to start, if they're thinking about starting, if they're just starting.
Yeah.
What's some advice?
Yeah, definitely. So as I was thinking about this, I thought, what keeps me going? So in this December was really busy for me and I was working 12, 14 hours a day. And after I came home, I was still thinking about like, oh, what's the next recipe? What am I creating for February, right? And so you have to be completely passionate about the product, the business, the idea, the mission behind it, because that is the only thing that is going to let you keep going.
Yeah.
I literally now I'm more relaxed because I know where I stand. I know my brand, I know my customers. But the first 3 months, it was 24 hours. I would sleep and think about the business and wake up and think about the business. And it's 24 hours that you're going to be doing this. So make sure you love it, right? And I think that's why I didn't go into furniture, right? I didn't go into anything else, because by now I would have been like, this is too much work. I'm not passionate about this. Forget it. So yeah, and along with that, once you find a passion, I feel like it's easier to find a community to support you. And that has been huge for me, finding other small businesses who I can be like, oh my gosh, I can't find an accountant, or how do I find insurance? And they are like, talk to these people, talk to this other person. You have questions about scaling, go talk to this other person. So creating that community of support it will get you through a lot as well. And then the last one that I recently, probably in November, I learned about this, is to find a BIL team. Are you familiar with the BIL team? So that is BAIL. And that stands for find a banker, an accountant, insurance agent, and a lawyer. And that is very important as well. Yeah, I've had such a great experience with Chase. I have my personal account there, and so I was like, oh, I may as well open my business account with them. And my banker has been a lifesaver, like really walking me through the process of like, these are the steps that you need to hit to be financially secure with your business, right? Like open a savings account. Probably is not a good time to create a line of credit right now because you're just starting. So let's touch bases in 6 months. And so creating that, again, relationship has been fantastic. And on top of that, I would say definitely find a mentor, someone who has gone through what you're going through, and someone who you can bounce ideas with and is not going to get tired from hearing you say the same things, or like, right? So
someone who's patient with you.
exactly. Like my immediate friends and family members, I feel like they get sick of me talking about the business, right? So you definitely want to find someone who's an extended friend or someone else, because and somebody who really understands where you're coming from, right? So I have this funny story with so my boyfriend's friend is friend of the founder of Suja. Is this green juices, you find them at the grocery store.
Oh, yeah, I love Suja. I drink that a lot from Sprouts. I go to Sprouts all the time, and so
yeah, it's a great product for sure. And so I met him briefly skiing one day, and this is like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And when I was starting the business, we were following each other on Instagram. And so I was like, I need to grow my followers. How do I do that? So I started contacting every single person I was following that had more than 10,000 followers or something like that. And I literally just wanted him to say, hey, check out Amano Pasta in Salt Lake. That's it.
Yeah.
And then he was curious. He took interest in the business, and he was like, what are you doing? Let me help you. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And so awesome. Oh my goodness, he's been such a rock star for me. And even though we don't chat every week, like recently when I was having a chat about wholesale pricing, I was like, how do I figure this out? Like, where do I start? So I was like, Eric, do you have any advice on this?
Yeah.
Please tell me what to do. And he shared his opinion. And I do take everything with a grain of salt, because he comes from a business model that is way different than mine, right? Like the product that he was making was fast, just put everything in the machine and you do it. I don't know how he did it, the product, but it was definitely faster than making pasta. And so I take the advice, I sit with it, and I think, how can I implement that into my business model, right? And like, how is that different? And so, yeah, mentor, have a lawyer or some law advice. The insurance is huge as well, and the accountant and banking.
Yeah, I think it's a interesting theme for the advice. It's like just finding people who are going to teach you more than you know. And I think like growing and learning and being open to learning from other people is a huge thing. I love that advice. And I also, just before we get off here, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. And I remember when talking to you initially about your pasta business, I was like, go Maria, like that is so cool to start a pasta business. I love pasta, and I think it's really cool that you took something that you're passionate about and you're doing it. And you're such a boss woman, and just doing it alone, it's crazy. What you do is insane. So like kudos to you. You're killing it, and I'm just so excited to see you grow and continue to grow. So
Thank you. Thank you so much,
yeah.
Shay. I'm so glad we reconnected after that class, and I'm excited to see what START ends up doing. And I would love to serve in any way I can. I love to share my experience. Maybe it helps to some other people, and I love to learn as well from other people. So I'll be here for you.
Hey, okay. Well, I'm excited. Thank you so much for being a part of the community and everything you do. So awesome. You have a wonderful day, and thank you for getting on this podcast.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. See ya. If you'd like to learn more about Amano Pasta, visit amanopastaco.com. If you'd like to learn more about START, visit STRT.com.